Is it a good or a bad thing that every now and then, when we try to create our topics for the week, we struggle?
I think it'll get better. My problem is I don't want to be the negative snap guy. There's always topics that can be good to bring up, but it's definitely one of those that I think they're doing way more good than they're doing bad.
We'll find out. Otherwise, it's just going to make it a fun intro. But either way, we'll say hello. Welcome on in, folks. For those who do not know, my name is Guest, also known as It's Guest Gaming, here on YouTube, Twitch, podcasting, do all the fun stuff. Wherever you're listening to us or watching us, appreciate you joining us here on the Snapback podcast, where you snap and we snap back. I'm joined once again with our co-host, DefaultDan. Good sir, how are you?
Doing well, man. Doing well. Can't complain and everything just feeling good, man.
Are you feeling more hawkish or bearish?
I like the hawk a little bit more than the bear, but
Okay, but do you like the
how about
card is the
yourself?
question.
The card,
Yeah,
we can
yeah.
definitely dive into that one.
Yeah, we got a couple of things I want to talk to you about today. She's definitely one of them, especially now that we've had a little bit of exposure to seeing her in gameplay. We're going to
Mm.
talk about just some fun decks that we've been using on ladder. I want to talk about the tournament scene, specifically with the upcoming Snap.fan tournament, as well as other giant events that have happened over the past couple of weeks. There are some decks that we really need to talk about, and also some suggestions for the upcoming season for Onslaught Citadel, which will be our upcoming hot featured specialty, whatever nomenclature they're now using, because it's all the same thing, location. But to answer your question, I'm doing well. I'm doing well. I'm trying to fight off a cold. My son was homesick this week, so
Yeah.
it's been that like, don't get sick, just it's been tough, especially with us, both working this
I
weekend with the
got you.
tournament. I'm trying
Mhm.
everything in my power to not get sick. So I know you're a dad too. So I know you know
Yeah,
that
yeah.
exact moment of,
We got
oh no, timer.
I actually had that a little bit this morning as well because allergies. So went to Epcot over
Ah.
the weekend with the flower festival
Oh.
and allergies. Not a good combo.
Oh boy. Oh, mm, that's just magical. So
Yeah.
that's a different kind of pixie dust. I apologize for on behalf
Oh
of
yeah.
Disney, and I don't even work there anymore. So yeah. But let's keep on the Disney theme. Let's keep with Marvel and Snap here.
Yeah, yeah.
Because we had our own little pixie dust effect happen from Snowguard. We see her now in the game. We've seen
Hmm.
some gameplay. And I say we because I know you did not invest in Snowguard, and neither did I, as per our own recommendations to ourselves. And
Yeah.
were you confirmed that that was a good idea or not?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. There's a big thing here from our last podcast, right? We had the some of the bad data mined information around cost and things like that. But honestly, even with the changes, which is she's a 1-2 no matter what form she's in, yeah, I'm not feeling her. I don't think she's that great. You look at something like the Hawk form, yes, you can shut down some locations, but it's the following turn. So
Yeah.
it's kind of obvious that it's coming. Again, seen some good streams where they're turning off limbo and some things like that. But again, you can see it coming from a mile away. I don't, you're not getting
Yeah.
anybody like you would with a Wanda or a Storm or something like that with, getting rid of limbo. And then the bear, I like the bear. I like the idea around the bear, but we're finding there's a bunch of locations that you would think trigger and they don't. So, example being Raft. Raft only triggers
Yeah.
once, and we got that confirmed by Glenn and team and a few of these other locations. So, I just think the usability, not really what we were looking for, similar
Yeah.
to a ghost or somebody that we've seen in the past.
I feel as much as we want her to be successful, I feel that she's going to have a very limited window to be successful. Because I saw
Mhm.
a lot of the same content you did in regards to, when the effects do work and how cool it is.
Mhm.
And then when the effects don't work and you're just sitting there on a one cost card. Um,
Yeah.
I think her feature, after watching gameplay the last couple of days, is going to be exclusively on hot locations and featured locations. that make
Yep.
her effect stand out. She's a card that you plug in
Yes.
with the mindset that you're going to have a specific location pop up repeatedly.
Mhm.
Um, we're going to talk about Onslaught Citadel. That's not one that would necessarily be like, hey, awesome, unless if you had the perfect combination of being able to turn
Yeah.
off Onslaught Citadel, disable that
On turn
doubling
6. Yeah.
on turn 6, exactly, and then there's your final count. Like, the amount of risk and reward on that to me does not justify the spot in a 12 card deck.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'm
I would agree
still on
with
the
you. I'd
fact
agree with you.
of just wait, just wait.
Yeah. It's one of those things where I think it would be a fun meme, YouTube short moment when you play Hawk on turn 5 to turn off Citadel, and then all of a sudden their Patriot doesn't work or on turn 6, or it doesn't double on turn
Yeah,
6. But it kind of comes down to that you have to have her in your hand at the right moment because she flips back and forth. So if you draw her later in the game, she may not be on the sequence number that you want her to be on. And on
right.
top of that, you probably could have just played Enchantress on Citadel, which I'm sure we're going to talk about this later in the podcast, but you could have
Yeah,
just played a different card that's going to be better than that card. So yeah.
this is true. 100% true. I just think that it was most eloquently exposed by our friend Super Tech God, who basically
Okay.
said, wait until Snowguard drops to pool 2.
Yeah.
And I think that was the best way to eloquently explain Snowguard's importance in not just the game, but the current
Hmm.
meta. And
Yeah.
we all know the current meta is very flooded with a lot of the same. And I would love to see people really
Hmm.
prove us wrong every now and then when it comes to changes in what's going to do well in ladder, in
Yeah.
tourneys, etc. KM's got his tournament coming out. Snap.fan has our tournament coming out. We have a lot of tournaments that
Yeah.
have happened over the last few weeks. It is
Yep.
now, with the tournament scene starting to grow, and we see there are tons of places and ways that you can do casual daily tournaments, you can do serious competitive
Hmm.
tournaments, you can have large tournaments, 8 people, 800 people. As someone who's so heavily invested in the tournament scene, that's kind of been
Yeah.
your baby over the last few weeks. You've decided this is what I want to do, this is my
Hmm.
role in the community. Talk to me about what you've watched in the evolution of the tournament scene and what
Yeah.
this also means for the upcoming tournaments from your perspective.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, so everybody out there, if you don't hang out with me on a regular, my background is I came from Magic. I've played Magic for 20 plus years. The tournament scene was the thing. Every Friday night, you're doing the small stuff, right? Friday Night Magic, all the way to opens, GPs, working your way, trying to get to that pro tour, that coveted pro tour with Magic. And honestly, when we started Snap, just like Hearthstone and some of these other games, you needed that scene. And so we started it, playing in it with Carbon and those guys, doing the cube rushes. And that was kind of the only way to play it. We didn't have a battle mode or anything like that. And those
Right.
were a ton of fun.
Yeah.
We got into battle mode, and we had things like the Creator Clash, we had Snap Clash, we had all these different tournaments kind of popping up, but they were very exclusive. They were streamer invited. You have to be in this certain group to know that certain person and everything. And I'm
Yeah.
not saying there's not a place for that, because I definitely think there's a place to have your favorite YouTube star, your favorite Twitch streamer, like go head to head against people, because it's fun to watch some of those people that are more creative. Maybe they're not tournament driven. So I'll give example of, like a Cozy or a Dexter or one of those guys, right? They're more creative. They like to have fun and put together some decks that aren't hyper tournament focused, compared to you have other ones, other streamers that's what they come from. That's what they want to do. And so it's fun to see those, but then opening up that lane to create a pro circuit, to create an area where people can come in and say, look, I am the best of the best, or I am, a top X player. because you're competing against 100 plus people. You're competing against 300,
Yeah.
400, 500 people. And that's where these tournaments have kind of started to evolve to. So you have, you mentioned KM's tournament, another streamer eccentric one coming up this weekend, which I think will be a lot of fun. You've got Binks involved in that one, doing some cool stuff. But then you have the Snap.fan Open, which is our monthly open. So we're bringing that every single month. I think right now we're capping it around 300 people just to make sure that we're getting the numbers in and we can, manage everything. But that'll open wide up. So as we get more people interested, and we had very close to 300 last month, so I
Yeah.
expect to get the same type of numbers this month. And prize pools are looking better and better every month. You've got our invitational for the Snap Fan tournament at the end of the year. So again, by participating in these, you can make your way to the invitational. But yeah, there's so many things out there. You've got Snap Clash doing daily stuff constantly, like multiple tournaments a day. You've got Battle Arena Showdown doing a bi-monthly, so they have two a month going on that are about 100 and so players. And yeah, I'm super excited just to see how this grows. But it opens up that lane to where if you're just tired of ladder, but you really want to be competitive or something like that, these are the things to pick up and see what you can do, prove yourself, and hopefully at some point we'll actually have a true pro league. And who knows, maybe that'll come from Snap.fan, or maybe
Yeah.
Second Dinner will kind of step in and make a true pro program. But yeah, I'm excited, man. Have you participated? I know we did cube rushes, but have you participated in any of these kind of tournaments so far that have gone on?
I've done a couple of the daily ones.
Hmm.
Just diving in, taking a look at and this was more towards the beginning of the battle mode. I go in and
Yeah.
out of battle mode on stream every now and then with some viewers just to try some new stuff out. But I feel more like battle mode is the avenue for tournaments, and then
Hmm.
there's going to be battle mode for conquest, which
Yeah.
is either going to ruin the tournament scene or absolutely make it explode.
Yeah.
And I don't think there's anything in between. I think that whatever this system is for conquest with tickets, and like you've got to win games and a certain number of games to get tickets to move up to different ranks, etc. I
Yeah.
can foresee Snap.fan or any other platform, for example, taking that as also like an entry fee per month to say, hey, listen, at the end of the month, if you want to qualify for a blank tournament, you've got to be at blank rank
Yeah.
or blank class or whatever for the tournament to participate. And I think that will help to create that almost, as you say, pro circuit for this
Yeah.
game, which is also at the same time really, really cool to see that this idea of a mobile game is already within a year evolving into these kinds of, you know, giant community
Yeah.
competitions and broadcasts and lots of fun stuff that we're all able to do. But as a player, that's obviously not the number one intention. It's not to be a
Right.
tournament player. Players who come on into this game who decide that they want to be competitive in a tournament sense typically are seeking it out due to prior experiences, not due to this being their first tournament experience, which
Hmm.
means that for many people, in my opinion, the conquest is going to be their entry to that idea. And I'm
Yeah.
hoping that we see on the roadmap that comes out next month from Second Dinner that that is something that they're looking to dive into on their own roadmap, is to evolve a potential tournament scene because they see the success of battle mode and then the
Yeah.
fingers crossed success of conquest. And now in-game tournaments can also be
Yeah.
conducted by Second Dinner on a much grander scale, obviously, much
Yeah.
grander scale.
The
Um,
the other way you can look at that too is even if they don't want to run that, it's partnering, right? So even if they
yeah,
directly partnered with, one of these big websites or one of these big groups to take that, because to your point, if you look at Magic Arena, you have that. You have the fact that you rank up all the way to Mythic. There's a certain number of top Mythic players, and you have a number one, a number two, and so on.
yeah,
And those are who gets invites to the Mythic Championship. So it would be interesting to see that now that they're starting to put those in place to not only have, your Snap.fan opens or Battle Arena or one of these other tournaments doing the hundreds of players, but now you also have that official, true work your way up in conquest. And at the end of the month or the end of the season, so many people get an invite to this, quote unquote mythic championship, whatever it may be,
Yeah.
infinite championship, whatever you want to call it. So,
It'd be quite cool. It'd
yeah.
be quite cool. And I like that there's this potential out there
Mhm.
for everybody right now. Whether you're a player, you're someone who is in second dinner, you're someone who is, in one of these major sites that are looking to grow them, or you're someone that's just trying to create its own tournament culture within your own
Yep.
Discord. There's a lot to work from right now. And it's a very positive thing for the community
Absolutely.
because let's be honest, we kind of need it every now and then, that reminder that
Mhm.
there's a lot of good already here and there's a lot of good coming.
Yeah.
So I'm
Well,
very
and
happy. Sorry, go ahead.
no, I was gonna say, and I agree with you. I think that when you look at the fact that we had ladder so long, and ladder's fun, and there's things to do in ladder, but the fact that we got battle mode to kind of give you that competitiveness or that one-on-one, whatever, now that turned into this tournaments, which is turning into conquest, like they are seeing it. And what everybody has to
Yeah.
remember is, I mean, the game really hasn't been out that long. Like, yes,
Mm.
it was in development for a long time, but that's figuring it out. That's putting pieces together to make the game work. And now that it's live, they're on a bigger scale. It wasn't just the 40 people in an office anymore. It's the millions of people around the world playing. So it's,
Yeah.
you know, working in these things. And I think they're doing a great job with what they're implementing and how they're managing it.
Yeah. It's fun to watch it all start to transpire because we've got you mentioned ladder, right?
Mhm.
Where that's obviously
Yeah.
how for all of us, it's the introduction to the game in some way, shape, or
Yeah.
form. And it's been refreshing to head into battle mode occasionally with a different mindset, whether you know what deck you're going up against or not.
Mhm.
It's been great
Yeah.
to just go into a new platform. You start figuring out the opponent's deck, and then sometimes there's that, location variability, and then sometimes there's
Mhm.
that deck variability if you've got something like a Maria Hill, a Coulson, etc.,
Right.
where there's only so much you can really play into with it.
Right.
Um,
Right.
but with the latter conversation, I know a lot of us felt it last season. I'm
Mhm.
curious if you're feeling it this season as well, because you mentioned, just you dipped into the word ladder, and sometimes that makes people already just go, "Ugh, really? Don't talk about ladder. We don't want to talk about
Yeah.
ladder." And I still feel, in comparison to last season, that this season has been an extremely difficult grind again for those of us who are
Yeah.
not with broken MMRs. Um,
Yeah.
are you feeling the same? Because like I have on screen the deck
I
I'm using
I
off
am.
stream to try to ladder up because it's the only one I'm like doing something
Yeah.
with right now.
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely it's hard. It's hard when you go into ladder because last season I had a very different experience with the ladder compared to previous seasons. So previous seasons I got to play a bunch of different decks. I hit infinite, but I didn't ever feel like there was like this deck was unbeatable. And then
Yeah.
when we had last season, we had guys like Ordinary Harry and those guys bringing up these good Thanos decks to the tournament scene. And then when you realize how powerful they are in the tournament scenes, that means these people are seeing the deck multiple times and still can't beat it. So
Yeah.
somebody who's seeing the deck for the first time in ladder, it's hard for them to beat. So we had a deck like Thanos that was just like so hard to beat. It did everything you wanted it to do. Even if you tried to counter it one way, it could shift because of the way the decks were built. And so I hit infinite very early last season. And then I have a second account that I'm kind of messing around with. And on that one, it took me a lot longer because this was after the Thanos nerf. I had to experiment with some different decks, and it took a lot longer to get there in that grind. And I experienced a lot of the going against infinite people who are still using really good decks, Shuri decks, Thanos decks, the decks that are still very difficult to beat, and they're not giving you cubes. And I'm not saying once you hit
Yeah.
infinite, you should give cubes, but it makes it very hard when you're at 98 or you're at 89 and you're just getting beat down by these people with the infinite card backs. And so we know that that change is coming soon. Hopefully it's sooner
Yeah.
rather than later, but we know that
Yeah.
change is coming. But I feel like that really hurt me in the fact that this season, I think I'm sitting at 87 or 88, but I play it
Show off.
maybe an hour a day. But
Yeah.
I don't play it much. I pick it up, I do 5 or 6 games, and then I'm done for the day. Compared to last season, I could grind for 3 hours and still be trying to get those last cubes. So I do feel like
Yeah.
mentally that last season hurt the game for a lot of players. And then going into this season, it's been a difficult grind. It's not, as easy as it felt like. I've got some people that hit infinite day one still, but you still hit those guys with the infinite card backs. And I feel like right now that is more demoralizing to people that are in the 70s and 80s, and they go up against those
Hmm.
people, and then those people steal 8 cubes from them. So that still needs to be resolved. But I don't know. I mean, like from your side, you mentioned the deck that you're looking at. I mean, a Galactus Null Death. I mean, a very solid deck there. But I mean, how are you feeling about ladder currently? Because there's still the big bad boogeyman of Shuri, which we know will get nerfed soon. But like, how are you doing with your
Next
decks?
week. Next week. We find out the nerf next week. Finally,
Yeah,
we're finally going to get the nerf that so many of us have been waiting for. I know there's a
yeah,
couple people out there that don't want the nerf, but there's no other way around it at this point because it's
yeah,
just too meta and the data shows it and you
yeah,
can't refute the data. And it needs to happen at this point. Um,
yeah.
but as someone who, I hit Infinite for the first time last season, did the
Mhm.
grind, we got up there, with the Darkhawk Devil Dino hybrid deck. And that's what put
Yep.
us over the top. I have been struggling back and forth in the 60s and 70s
Yep.
for, the last, what is it now? 13 days and just up and down and up and
Mhm.
down and up and down, absolutely detesting seeing the combination of, you see armor or lizard get dropped on turn 1 or 2. It's like, come
Here
on.
it
Like,
comes.
exactly. Here it comes. So, I decided this season, I didn't want to use the same deck to climb again because that to me would be too boring. So this
Yep.
season, I'm using a Galactus deck, which I did not use in a climbing sense last season. I used
Yep.
it as just like a testing, having some fun sense. And I went through and looked at all the different synergies of do you want to do a Spider-Man version? Should I look at,
Mhm.
do we do a Nimrod version with Shuri? And I went through all the stats and research and figured out what play style I like the most and which is the most flexible
Yep.
for me. And the Infinictus is what's on screen if you're watching on the YouTube video podcast. But basically it's the cloak variation in there
Yep.
with Doc Ock, Null, Galactus, and America Chavez. A lot of the other players are pretty much the same. And
Yep.
I feel the most confident with this one climbing more than anything else right now. It's not as fun, but it's one of
Yeah.
those, very early on if you're going to lose 1 or 2 cubes or if you're going to risk trying to win 2 to 4 cubes.
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
a much slower grind up there. Considering on stream, I like to mess around and try some test decks, and this one's featured to
Yeah.
this, and okay, this is cool here. And this has kind of been the deck that I've been leaning on a little bit more so. And I know a lot of people who are just trying to hit infinite. They'll play one deck
Yeah.
exclusively the entire season until they hit infinite because they feel like they know it inside and out and it's most secure for them
Yeah.
to climb. And I want to throw this notion out there to people who are struggling in the climb, who are really desperate to figure out how am I going to get over that infinite hump? Because you're trying the same deck, you know this deck super well. You go and you just keep getting awful matches or bad locations or the
Mhm.
chance of something happening was only 20%, but it went their way. Like everything seems to go wrong. My best suggestion is not put the game down. It's not to keep grinding, it's to change decks. Just
Yeah.
get your brain out of the rhythm, because sometimes it gets too rhythmic and you miss those things and you
Yeah.
miss those chances that you could have retreat, but you didn't, because there's nothing more demoralizing than spending 4 games climbing up 2 cubes a game and then losing an 8 cuber due
Yeah.
to something that you could have avoided. It's like, well, there goes
Yeah.
my entire, half hour. There was nothing productive that happened at all. And as a tournament climber, someone who's trying to move up consistently and fell really hard while testing Shadow King and Dazzler, and let me make this clear to the world, don't. I dropped 10 ranks. I dropped 10 ranks
Yeah.
trying to find other ways, good ways, unique ways, strong ways to make these 2 brand new cards of mine work.
Yeah.
Mm-mm. Nope, didn't happen,
Yeah.
and I'm paying
I,
the price for it now.
yeah. I do
I
feel like if we're looking at like things that need to be on the roadmap, we need that uh play mode, that non-ladder mode. So
Yeah.
you can do those types of things. Because right now,
Mhm.
the only way to do it is like literally be in battle mode. You go, hey,
Yeah.
you want to play me in battle mode, and then it doesn't feel as good or feel as real when you're doing your testing. But yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, I would agree with you. I think sometimes you just have to change it up. Find the meme deck to clear your brain. Lose a cube or two if you need to, just to kind of step back. I've been using Patriot. It's one of those decks that I know if I'm going to win or lose. I know when I can retreat. It's pretty straightforward of how you play it. So I usually use that for climbing a lot of the times, but I'll leave you with a meme deck that I saw, right? Because you're playing
Okay.
Galactus, this is a Galactus meme deck. So you turn 2, you throw a Viper on a location just by yourself, right? You're not throwing anything over yet. Turn 3, you throw a wave on a different location. Okay, so you just throw that on a different location. Turn 4, you play Galactus with Viper. No harm, no foul. Nothing's happened yet. Don't really know what's going on. And hopefully, again, it's a meme deck, so it has to go in your favor. Turn 6, you can hopefully Odin on there, and she'll throw Galactus over to their side, blow up the whole world, and then you'll win that way. So again, everything's got to line up. They can't play on that location, but if it happens, it's the best
Wow.
thing in the world.
Viper,
So
Galactus, and Odin on the
yeah,
lane, and all you gotta do is hope they're not
they're not
playing
playing in that
anything?
lane. In that lane, they can play on the other lanes. You hope they don't play in that lane. So Galactus is this only because he'll re-trigger once he hits the other side by himself.
So you're gonna
Yeah,
need
it's
negative or, limbo.
no, because you're doing Galactus off of wave. So Galactus is coming down
Oh,
on turn
sorry, I
4.
forgot about wave. I forgot about
Yeah,
wave. Okay,
yeah, yeah.
that's interesting. I don't know if I'm gonna
So
call that the deck of the week, but
no,
man, I would love to
it's
see
not.
that. I would love to
I
see
guess
that one.
technically, you could also throw like an Electro out instead of a wave, and then you're fiving. You're doing Galactus, and you're like, oh man, what did they
Sandman?
just do?
Sandman it?
Yeah, you could do Sandman too.
Just one
So
card at a
again, a
time. I mean,
lot of stuff has to line up, but
yeah.
if it lines up, it's great.
I think I will try that post Infinite.
Yeah,
Once I get there and I don't have to worry about falling, that'll be a lot of fun. I'm curious
yeah,
if anybody can get footage of that working. I'd love to
yeah.
put that up here on the channel because that's fun.
We'll have to throw that over to Binks because I know Binks spent like 6 hours to get that one
Yeah.
combo.
Yeah, the destroyer
with
combo. Yeah.
yeah, with throwing
That
the
was cool.
destroyer over the fence. So
He makes some
we'll
fun
mention
decks.
it to him. Yeah,
He makes some
absolutely.
really
Again,
good, some really fun decks.
and again, it goes back to what we were talking about before when it comes to the ladder. Like, I think last season was the first season Binks ever hit Infinite. He just
Correct.
plays to have fun. He doesn't care. And, I think there's a lot of players out there that's how they are. And then a lot of other players, they just complain because they can't hit Infinite. And that's their focus and their one thing they want to do in the game. So hopefully, with the new modes that are coming out, with the things that are out there, maybe it takes the pressure off of ladder as much, right? So we'll have to see though.
I don't know.
This is-
I don't know if the pressure is going to remove because there's, we as players, we put a lot of pressure on ourselves to hit a certain goal, a certain, whether it's infinite, whether it's coming up with conquest, it'll be that new infinity level. It'll,
Yeah.
put ourselves into a tournament scene and we're trying to do well. Like there's always pressure in these games in some way, shape, or form. I just don't like it when the pressure is in how can I word this? Um, Manufactured incorrectly.
Yeah.
So I'll explain. We put pressure on ourselves because, as a content creator, we want to have fun, but we also want to make, good content, but we also need to be competitive. So there's that constant battle that we mess with. As a player who
Yeah.
doesn't create content, you're looking for the best deck possible. You're looking for the deck that's going to shine and showcase and help you hit your goal with as little stress as possible. And I wanted to bring up
Yeah.
something I saw online the other day. Um,
Mhm.
I saw the claim that the Hit Monkey Miracle deck was a number one deck, so much so that it is a better deck than the Shuri Red Skull deck.
All right. So when it comes to Hitmonkey, right? Like, is the deck good? Yes. When the deck works. So it's one of those things where I think the Hitmonkey deck was a lot of fun. The first couple days or something of the season, I could expect it to be near the top of the list because everybody's wanting to play it and try it. But honestly, man, like I've seen some crazy Hitmonkeys, but when you look at a deck like Shuri, Shuri is a 3 card combo. That's all you
Yeah.
need. Hitmonkey is a 10 card combo. Like
Yeah.
literally, your deck has to work the proper way to be able to do that. And you have to wait till turn 6. So a leech on turn 5 kills you.
Yeah.
There's so many cards that can stop this combo. And I would not agree with it being the best deck. Is it a good deck? Yeah, I think it's a fine deck. I think if you can get the right sequence of Bast, into Angela and the Bishop, like some of those cards are really good, but I don't see it being the best deck possible.
I'm in the position like I've got multiple videos out on Hit Monkey decks. I love Hit Monkey decks. I think they are a lot of
Mhm.
fun. They are unique, whether you're doing a bounce variation, whether you're doing a negative variation, whether you're doing a Patriot variation, no matter what you're doing.
Yeah.
Hit Hit Monkey's fun. He's a great card. You get good value out of him for not a lot in
Mhm.
comparison. Really, he's very flexible. Um, if you get a 2/4 even out of him, he's done his job. It doesn't take much to
Yeah.
make Hit Monkey be a good card. Um, but with that said, the inconsistency of a hazmat deck to me, as
Yeah.
much as I like hazmat, I can't stand behind the idea that making the claim that this is a number one deck that competes with Shuri. Because,
Right.
like you said, a lot of things have to line up. So I went to look at the stats of this exact deck. And I want to make something clear. The information that I got on this deck, the fact that it's saying this is the number one deck in the game, was talking about the fact that Sarah Miracle is the number one deck in the game. And the first suggestion they recommended is this version. Number one
Yeah.
suggestion on the top of the page is this hazmat version. And I couldn't believe it. So I went on all three of the tracker sites. I went on Snap.fan, I went on Marvel Snap Zone, and I went on Untapped. And I looked up this exact deck and their win rates.
Yeah.
None of them have a 50% win rate. Not one
Yeah.
tracker of information has this deck at a 50% or higher win rate. It's all positive cubes, nothing higher than like 0.4, which is okay,
Right. Right.
but it has a higher loss rate than win rate. That's to me, I can't speak to that as being a meta deck. And the reason I wanted to bring this up as a topic of discussion
Mhm.
was me just making a statement about win rate in general. I want it to be known
Yeah.
that if you are someone in this community that looks at stats and looks at, okay, let me research best deck, this, whether you're using any of the sites, whatever tracker you use, whatever it is, to me,
Mhm.
number one thing you should be looking at is the combination of win rate mixed with number of games used. Because the cubes won, in my opinion, means absolutely nothing. I don't look at that stat at all. Because you might be an awful snapper, but win 70% of your games. I might be a great snapper and win 51% of my games. But
Yeah.
just because you got lower amounts doesn't mean that you didn't climb higher. You technically
Right.
climbed higher. And I just want to throw that conversation out there. Like when you're building a deck or you're looking into the information that's available online because of all these amazing, wonderful tools that we have, like if you're pulling up Snap.fan, what are you
Yeah.
looking at when you're deciding, I'm going to try this deck or I'm going to research this or look up stats on this
Mhm.
card? Like, am I crazy for thinking that win rate's more important?
So I think there's a couple factors, and I you've hit them. You've hit the three big ones, right? So the first one I always look at when weeding out decks is the number of games.
Yeah.
So just as a straight up, if you haven't played 1,000 games with it, I'm less likely to look at the deck, right? Now, if you have 100 or 200 games that you've played with it, maybe, but just keep in mind that means that could be 10 people playing this deck and they've just all played, 15, 20 games with it, which isn't really good stats compared to if a deck has 1,000 plus games. Some of these decks have 10,000 games, right? When you're looking at Snap.fan. So,
Yeah.
you want to make sure that you're looking at that. So you're getting a good idea of what it really looks like and ladder. And the reason why I say that is you have to remember there's millions of people playing. So if it only has 100 games, that's a very low number. 1,000 is still a low number, but because everybody doesn't use the tracking software, you kind of have to play it as it is. So that's my
Yeah.
number one. And I would agree with you. I think, when you look at something like Galactus, so we'll take Galactus decks as general, they have a decent cube rate because either one, they win or they retreat, right? Like there's not really much in between with the Galactus deck. So they're either losing one cube or they won and the person stayed with it and they probably won 4 8 cubes that game. So as a higher cube rate, but if you look at the win rate, the win rate's very low. It's very low because most people, can predict it. They can move your stuff with players. And if you're a Galactus player, or Arrow or any of these cards, like if you're a Galactus player, then as soon as the first thing interrupts you, you're out of there. I'll give you my
Yeah.
one cube. I'm out of here because debris just messed up my game plan. So
Yep.
it's one of those things where I agree with you that win rate is a really big thing to work at because if you look at cube rate over win rate, you may be looking at really good snappers. So they know when to retreat, they know when to snap.
Hmm.
And if you've never played the deck, it's going to take you 10, 20 games to even come close to knowing when to snap and when to retreat. Most likely 40 or 50
Yeah.
games, but just in general. So I think if a deck is 70% win rate, which there's not many decks out there, you really want to shoot for
Yeah.
50 to 60% is what you're looking at. But as long as you know that, it means it's going to be a fairly easier deck to learn when to snap, when not to snap. But yeah, I agree with you. I love to look at decks. It's fun to look at stats, and a lot of people get hung up on the wrong stats, and a lot of people just focus on what deck is getting the most cubes. And realistically, the deck getting the most cubes is probably one of the harder decks to play because your opponent doesn't know what you're doing, and you know
Yeah.
exactly when to snap.
Very true.
It's
Very,
uh,
very
it's
true.
it's an interesting one.
I think
Just
laddering decks are tough because, there's a lot of myth and a lot of what's the word I'm looking for? Because I hate the word conspiracy, so we'll just put it at theories out there when it comes to, the decks that you choose and matching and how it works. And,
yeah,
I agree. There was a great video put out by KM Best recently about talking about this. And it's
yeah,
a matter of this is what they tell us, this is what it is. You need data to prove otherwise. And ladder's tough because You look for
Yeah.
patterns that you don't really realize you already look for. For example, deck identification. I
Yeah.
can't tell you how refreshing it is to see armor get played on turn 2, be frustrated, and then something random like Viper get played on turn 3. Like, okay, it's not what I thought. Like, because you're
Yeah.
just so accustomed to certain patterns and certain decks and things. And it can feel that way from an opponent standpoint. But if I'm on ladder like
Yeah.
right now, I told you I'm using the Galactus deck.
Yeah.
And we've got also a featured location coming up soon. You said you run a Patriot deck. I want you to dive a
Yeah.
little bit into for me. What are you using to generally ladder? And what would you
Yeah.
recommend when it comes to the featured locations? Are you a kind of player that feeds into the featured location or fights against the featured location?
So I think it comes down to most of the time what the location is. You definitely have to be aware that there's going to be people that pull in hate cards
Oh
or
yeah.
buff cards or whatever for a feature location. So when you look at something like the Patriot deck, right? The Patriot deck is an easy deck to play. Patriot on 3, Mystique on 4, Blue Marvel on 5, Ultron on 6. That's your perfect world and what you live in, right? And if they don't have an Enchantress or they don't have a Cosmo, which you can still play around a little bit, but if they don't have those two cards, you win. They don't do anything around it. But when it comes to feature locations, it does get a little bit trickier because something like Citadel, you would expect, oh, I'm just going to play Patriot, but there's more likely people are going to have Enchantress during that particular location because it's all about ongoings. Enchantress shuts that down. There's probably going to be more Cosmos because people like to play Wong when Citadel comes up, and you just throw down a Cosmo, and now the Wong does nothing. So what I'll probably do, and my Patriot deck is the Turrican March a Snap.fan open deck. So it's actually one the open or one battle arena, one or the other from last month, and he did pretty well with it. But it has other cards. It has Leech in it. It has
Yeah.
Shang-Chi in it. It has some cards that I can kind of swap in and out depending on the matchup and use or not use. But there's other cards like um, I was going to say Red Skull, but that's wrong. Super Scroll. So like now they
Yeah,
want to
buddy.
throw everything over there, and I'm just going to do a Super Scroll, and I will copy what you have. And if you have Enchantress, well, you just Enchantress my guy, but you also Enchantress all your guys. So there's a few cards that you can kind of sneak into decks. And so probably with my Patriot deck, I probably throw that in. And if I don't expect to see Enchantress, because that's really the only thing that hits for the most part the Patriot deck, then I'll just use it normal. And if I'm thinking there's Enchantress, maybe I throw something out on the field or I put them on a different location. So I don't know. Each location's a little different. So
Yeah.
how about you,
I
man? How do you play those?
typically with the featured or hot or whatever locations, I do play into them. I do create decks and I try to post them up on Twitter as well, saying, hey,
Mhm.
this is the featured location. This is the deck I'm going to run. And
Yep.
just, take it for what it's worth. I am definitely going to try to take advantage of Super Skrull on this upcoming hot
Mhm.
location. I think it's going to be really cool to see a lot of Patriot decks. And then Super Scroll says, nuh not today. So I'm going to be running that. And
Yep.
then I'm also going to try a full on counter deck to that with
Yeah.
cards like you said, Rogue, Cosmo, Enchantress, and I think the sleeper victor of this potential Onslaught Citadel feature location is actually going to be Magneto because most of the
Yeah.
ongoing cards that you want to play on there are going to be 3 or 4 cost. It's not
Yeah.
really a 6 cost card as much it's going to benefit. Like if you want to drop that Onslaught onto
Yeah.
Onslaught Citadel, typically you're doing it because you have a Patriot or a Mystique or a Wong on there taking
Yeah.
advantage of it. So you just
Yeah.
cha-cha slide them over and then ta-da. It's not where you want it
Yeah.
anymore. Oh well. So I think those are going to be big. Maybe some
Yeah.
clog cards like Debris, bringing back the Master Mold routine could be fun
Mhm.
again. Like I'm going to try to build a
I think
full on like counter deck just to see what happens.
Yeah. And I think if you want probably the best deck, right? And again, it's everybody plays differently, but I think one of the best decks you're gonna probably run there is something like that Darkhawk, Dino, whatever deck, because it gives you
Yeah.
the ability to play Dark on a different location. Mystique, copy that. Like you can do Dino on Citadel, and then if you have Zabu out, then that means turn 6 you can do also Darkhawk and Mystique, right? So now you have a part where you have 3 big cards each in their own lane, to where
Yeah.
you're not putting everything. Because I feel like with certain locations, so many people overcommit to the one location. So for instance, with this one, they're going to overcommit that Wong into Mystique into Hazmat, Odin play or something like that. And now if you shut that down with a Cosmo, one card has taken away everything they're trying to do on that one location. So
Yep.
I like playing something like that deck because you can throw down a giant dino, and now they have to use a Shang-Chi there, where you can have a Darkhawk somewhere else. Or you can come in with a Doom on the top end or something and kind of split up some power everywhere else. Not really feeding into the location, but having one or two cards that do well there while still winning the other locations if they're having to overcommit there. But again, I think Super Scroll is the sleeper, and you throw them on a different location or you throw them on that location, and all of a sudden, it doesn't matter what they're doing, you're doing it too.
Yeah. 100%. I think the more and more I think about, what Citadel is going to do and the amount of Patriots that are going to be out
Yeah.
there and the amount of I think this weekend, because it's such a loved location, that it's
Yeah.
probably better for counter decks than it is for actual Patriot or actual Iron Man
Yeah.
ongoing, style decks. I think that you're going to see just as much on the counter side. So you're looking at control decks, you're looking at
Yeah.
clog decks, you're looking at move decks, even are going to be fun because
Yeah.
I think you're going to have a lot of counter ability built in there. Cosmo
Yeah.
is going to be the MVP for those who are playing into it, because that's what's going to more often than not stop it. Um,
Yeah.
so if you are playing into the location, have your Cosmo ready. I would not
Yeah.
recommend the Wong variation on Onslaught Citadel for that exact reason, because Wong
Yeah.
is not only a counter, he's also the preventer on your own side.
Hmm.
And you don't,
Hmm.
it's just, there's too many things. I think the Yellow Jacket deck might make a small, fun one-day appearance, trying to get that combo
Yeah.
of the ridiculous Yellow Jackets. The 2.14
Yeah. Yeah.
billion sized Yellow Jackets.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
yeah, you're gonna win that lane, but I think that could be fun. Just as like a hey, if you're infinite, this is probably the best chance if you've never done the combo before. You're trying to lay down a
Yeah.
2.14 billion onto a lane, and it's pretty honestly, it's pretty easy. You just land the
Yeah.
combo in, I think it's what, Forge, followed by, I think it's Forge,
Uh,
Wong, Mystique. Oh no, sorry.
Shuri and
It's no, I said that wrong. It's you gotta get Zabu down, and then you get Wong, Shuri, Forge, Wong, Shuri,
Wong,
that's it.
Mystique, Shuri.
Oh no,
Yeah.
it is Mystique on 5. You're right.
There's
Yeah. It's
you can. It
Zabu.
depends how big you
Yeah.
want to get them, but yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean the
So
max out one, and it took me a second because it's been a hot minute since I did the deck,
yeah. Yeah.
was Zabu on 2, Wong on 3, Mystique on 4, Shuri on 5, Odin on 6 with Yellow Jacket in whatever other lane. And
Yeah.
if you can get that to land on that combination, have fun with that, because it's cool to do just to say that you did it. I'm pretty sure that's the combo. It's been a hot
Yeah. Yeah.
minute, but I'm pretty sure that's the combo.
Yeah, it is. It
There's a
is. And
Forge
your
variation
Odin
too, but
is
yeah,
yeah, and your Odin's massive too, so that's gonna win that lane.
yeah,
And then the Yellow Jacket's gonna win your other lane. You
yeah,
may see the
true,
Wong Black Panther Zola combo when it comes to this. Again, Cosmos shutting that down pretty hard. So yeah, there's a
true.
lot of interesting stuff that may happen with this location. I think you, to your point, I think you either play into it or you play around it. And when you play
But you
around it,
don't
you're
ignore
playing
it.
the
You
counters.
can't ignore it
Right.
though. This is a location you
Right.
can't just
Right.
say, "Oh shoot, it's there." Like, this is one that you have
Yeah.
to go,
It's
"Oh fuck yeah, here we go." Like,
yeah. Yeah.
That's what with this location
not,
means.
yeah, it's not the pet mansion that's going on right now. You're like, oh, turn 2, I have to play here. Like, it's not that. This is a game
Yeah.
changing location. But then
Mhm.
again, you know what else you can do? You can play Rhino. You can play
Right.
Scarlet Witch
Storm, Scarlet
and just change
Witch.
it.
Yeah.
Um, and who knows if
Reality
you want to
Stone.
get tricky, yeah, if you want to get tricky, you can always use the Hawk on turn 5, turn it off for turn 6. But if they're playing the wand combos, it doesn't matter.
If you
They've
have
already white
Snowguard,
tigered
you
you before you
deserve
did
to
it.
use it on turn 5. If you've actually invested in the Snowguard, I don't think that's worth needing to have in your deck. Even
Yeah.
for like a Khazar, double boost up variation, like, okay, here's the hawk and the bear and the turn it on or ignore or no,
Yeah.
just no. Sorry. Sorry, Snowguard.
Yep.
You've got beautiful animations, just no purpose in the game.
I know.
Not at least
know.
not now. Not now at least. Maybe in the future
Yeah.
that, some cards we sleep on, like Super Scroll. And this is a great moment for them to shine. And I
Yeah.
hope, keyword, I hope that you all have fun playing into Onslaught Citadel for those who are listening, for those who are watching. Mr.
Mhm.
Default Dan, can you also tell us where can we find you?
Yeah, absolutely. So if you want to check out my live content, it's over on twitch.tv/defaultdan. We do these things live on Monday. So if you want to come hang out with us, we'll
Yeah.
be recording over there live. And then also we've got a lot of other fun stuff going on during the week over there. So just be checking in. And then the youtube.com/defaultdan. I put up videos, trying to get some more videos out there. But if you're wanting to get some recaps of the MCU, we are currently going through a whole series of rewatching those with the wife, seeing
Nice.
what she remembers because she doesn't remember movies at all, and having some fun there. So, yeah, you can check out
Nice.
those. And then I think over on Twitter, it's Default Dan, Snap or
Snap.
something like that. I don't know.
I got you. I
Snap,
got you.
yeah.
I got you.
So,
I follow you.
so
So
you
it's
can
okay.
find
I
me.
got
You can find me all those.
And
Pretty
both
easy.
of us, you can find where this coming Saturday.
Yes. So this coming Saturday, we've got the Snap.fan open. Again, these are monthly opens. We'll be over on Twitch at twitch.tv/SnapFan tournaments. And so we'll be doing it over there this weekend. I'll keep you posted for any other additions to the SnapFan family and switches and things like that on the upcoming podcast. But definitely check us out over there this weekend as host. I'll be hosting some of the first stuff, some of the end stuff, as well as just making it run. But this guy over here, guest, is going to be in a couple different segments throughout the day. Definitely come check it out. See what decks they're playing, see how they're running. Give us your feedback on the decks and how the people are playing, because it's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing people in the chat because I will be there all day from pre-show to post-show, whether it's me broadcasting or me being active in the chat live reacting. I will be 100% head first involved all day. I've kicked my wife and kids out for the day and said I need to work this Saturday for this tournament because it's my first broadcast as a caster, and I'm again, extremely honored to have been selected to join in with some absolutely amazing people. Broadcast for the very first time, put out my enthusiasm for this game in a different way as a reactive conversation then. And then you're going to see me constantly in the chat, nonstop, commenting, asking questions, answering questions, live reactions, the whole fun. You'll be able to catch us over there on Saturday. But if you wish to come join us over on Twitch, you can find me over at twitch.tv/ItsGuestGaming. I typically stream about 4 days a week, all Snap, all the time. Otherwise, you can come follow me on Twitter or YouTube or any of the other platforms because I'm pretty much everywhere at this point. But as of right now, we're here on the Snap Back podcast where you snap and we snap back. Thank you guys so much for listening today. We'll be back on Monday night to do this one live. Otherwise, you'll hear us on Tuesday. So let's try this again. Can you do this better? Say goodbye, Default Dan.
See y'all later. About that, is that better?
I swear, like you
game.
belong in a soft serve format in a giant waffle cone. My God.
We're gonna get better at that every week.